The God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob is more powerful than any lowercase g God you can present. This is a power greater than anything we've ever known. This is God. What in the world does this have to do with me? I'm trying to hold my family together. I'm trying to make some big decisions. I'm trying to get my kids raised. I'm fighting things that are going on in my life. I've had disappointments and heartaches that I don't know how to deal with. How is this supposed to help me? There is a spiritual battle going on around you. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age. And this fight is personal. Be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, walks about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. Resist him. He who is in you is greater than he who is in the world. Who are you going to turn to when the battle gets rough? When the battle gets personal? When Satan is targeting your family? When he's relentlessly tempting you? When he's trying to exploit your weaknesses and your past failures? Who are you going to turn to? God, no matter what I face today, no matter what Satan throws at me, whatever you call me to do today, I'm going to trust in you and obey.
Hey, thanks for joining us for the Tennessee Golden Hour podcast. My name is Matt Tullis.
I'm Beth Moore.
Where are you right now?
So currently I'm at the Knox County Association of Baptist office, and I've been up in Morristown doing some visiting of our different compassion ministries across the state.
You've been one busy gal, just
a little bit
over the place. We're busy too. This is our second wedding in a month. Our third born is getting married, so we'll have two daughters. My wife really wanted a daughter. That's why we have 4 boys. And so we're really excited about that. But my house, it looks like a cross between a Home Depot and one of those decoration places.
Hobby Lobby or something.
Hobby Lobby. That's the name of the place I never go into.
That's right.
Anyway, but I'm really excited about the opportunity to talk to Pastor Dan Spencer from First Baptist Sevierville, and he's going to share a lot of insight with us. So let's just go straight to the conversation. The first question I want to ask is, what happened between 1984 and 1986? That was quite a trajectory from coming to know Jesus and then feeling called to the ministry.
It really was, Matt. And by the way, thank you so much for asking me to be a part of this and to be on the Golden Hour. I have huge respect for both of you. Beth Moore, you're one of those people that good things just kind of follow you around the state of Tennessee. Everywhere I turn, people are just talking good about you behind your back.
That's true.
Matt, I first got to know you when you were writing for, I guess it was SBC Life or something like that, where you would have monologues, sketches related to ministry as sermon starters. I used a lot of those, and my favorite still is the John 3:16 monologue that you have. It's fantastic. But sure appreciate your ministry too. Yeah, for me, when I was saved at 16 years old, began to grow in the Lord, and then I had mapped out my future, and I wanted to be an attorney. I had a cousin who had gone into law school, and so I thought that was pretty cool. I wanted to be one of those guys, and so I had my room assignment all laid out. My roommate was going to be my good friend from high school, and I was headed to the University of Tennessee at Martin for pre-law, and then went with my home church, Brownsville Baptist Church in Brownsville, West Tennessee, on a something they used to do all the time back in the day, which was a youth choir tour. And so it was a combination of doing concerts with a large youth choir, and then during the day doing ministry in parks all over Toronto, Canada. And we worked with a local association there. I was a team leader, reluctantly, And on that trip, for the first time, I got to teach the Bible to people who had never heard the gospel before, children who had come to these parks, and to see them hear about Jesus dying on the cross, about salvation and all that that means, and to see the light come on and some of them to be saved, captured my heart for sure. And that's something you just never get over. And besides that, the musical we were singing was one by Kurt and Claire Cloninger called Surrender. And so the theme of the whole thing was that surrendering to Jesus really is the only way to find your purpose in life and real meaning. So the Lord was just smacking me upside the head the whole time with what I was able to be involved in, what I kept hearing and singing with the rest of the choir. And so it got to the point where I knew God is calling me. And the problem was I had given the Lord really, I think, everything I knew how to give him at that point, except for access to my future. I was purposely withholding that from his control. And so, like the musical we were singing, I surrendered, and immediately I think the Lord called me into ministry. I wasn't sure exactly where that was going to take me, but I knew that he was calling. And so I said yes before he could take it back, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's so encouraging to hear, and something I think so many of us that have been called into ministry can relate to. But Dan, how did you end up at First Baptist Sevierville? How did the Lord lead you to Sevierville, Tennessee?
Yeah, Beth, I've done several things in ministry. I've been home missionary with back then the Home Mission Board, and got to spend 2 years with just my wife and I traveling the state of Missouri where they assigned us. We worked with the evangelism department there, and we're on, I think it was every single college campus in the state of Missouri, from universities to community colleges, and just teaching the student leadership in the Baptist campus ministries there how to share the gospel, how to teach others to share. And so I've done that. I've been a minister of music and youth. That used to be a popular combo back in the day.
Right.
And I really enjoyed that, thought the Lord would have me doing that the rest of my life. But then I had an opportunity to work with my dad, who, growing up, he was an evangelist and was always gone. And so for 6 years, I got to be his associate pastor, and he had gone into the pastorate. And it was sort of like reclaiming lost time, combined with just learning more than I ever have learned in any classroom, just working under him. And I loved being in that position on a church staff, being the assistant to the pastor or associate pastor, and wanting to do that the rest of my life. I thought, this is really my thing. And then the Lord began to stir the nest there, and gave me the desire to, be willing to do something else. And the next thing I knew, a church from Georgia was calling me. So I spent 11 years as pastor in South Georgia. But then, again, I thought, I want to be here the rest of my life. There was no reason to leave. I was loving it, involved in the state convention, the local association, ministry in my church. And then someone from Sevierville, Tennessee called, and the Lord would not let me get away from that. And so called me here, and this has become home now. And again, I think I'm probably going to be here the rest of my life. But it's been 12 years now, and God is greatly blessed, and we're having a great time.
Well, let's kindly rewind back to your heritage. I understand there's a connection between you and the cooperative program, even biologically. Yeah,
interesting story. My great-great-grandfather is George Martin Savage, former president of Union University. And so my family's always had a connection there. But one of his sons-in-law is M.E. Dodd. And so M.E. Dodd would be my great-great uncle. And of course, he chaired the Future Committee in 1925 for the SBC that proposed the cooperative program. I believe that happened in Memphis when the vote was taken. And so I grew up hearing my mom talk about one of her favorite cousins was Dodd's daughter. And then my mom got to spend time with the Dodds in their home in Shreveport, Louisiana. And she talked about how her uncle would take them out for ice cream all the time, and what a great sense of humor he had, and just what a gracious person he was all around. And so really it was then that I began to hear about the cooperative program, because as a family, we sure were proud of that heritage. And so I guess I heard that first from my mom, and then growing up in a Southern Baptist church as well. And then, my dad has been involved in the SBC for many years. He's one of the few guys who has been the president of the Conference of Southern Baptist Evangelists and the Pastors Conference of the SBC. And so, of course, I've heard that, the value of the cooperative program from him all my life as well. And so, yeah, there's a sense of family responsibility that I feel whenever I talk about the cooperative program.
I love that. So what do you see as some of the major priorities that we face right now for our denomination?
I don't think, Beth, anybody or anything could ever take priority over the mission that Jesus has given us to the way that we say it around here is to make and mobilize disciples. It's Jesus that gets to dictate what that mission is. And so that has to be the number one priority that supersedes everything, and is the overarching priority of the church and of our denomination. So that has to be first. I sure would love to see us as a convention refocus on that. And of course, you can't focus on everything at the same time. So even other important things have to be subjugated to that number one priority. And so whatever things we need to take care of internally, we have to focus on that major priority that God has given us. But under that, there are so many wonderful things that we're involved in. The two of you are immersed in this every day, in being champions for that cause. And there are a lot of things that go into that. I think as a state convention, you two are involved in doing the massive legwork of encouraging and promoting cooperative program giving in our state, and doing the work of the SBC right there on the ground. I mean, in Knox County at an associational office today, Beth. And so that's a priority, is to get us back to what M.E. Dodd called our unity of purpose as a denomination. There is this unity that we've proven before how unified we can be when we come together under that purpose to make and mobilize disciples as Jesus told us to do it. And so that has to be priority, is to inspire folks in our churches to keep that front and center, and training pastors and missionaries and sending out people to plant churches here in North America and around the world. And like the two of you, I've had the privilege of knowing some of those folks, and who are doing that on the ground, and we partner with them. Southern Baptist Church planners and international missionaries in other parts of the world as a church here in Sevierville. And I've never seen anything that fires our church up like involvement with the people God is using in that special way. And gives us a connection of sort of being the enablers and the givers and the senders, and then to be able from time to time to lock arms with those folks on the field and be involved in that work. Nothing fires us up more than that. And that has to continue to be a priority too, I think.
Okay, so I've got some breaking news for you, Dan. Someone is nominating you to be the president of the Southern Baptist Convention. You probably already know that.
Kidding.
So, and okay, I'm just going to be honest.
Okay.
It just seems like there are so many issues swirling around in the Southern Baptist Convention with the law amendment, with the sex abuse task force, and writing some things that definitely need to be addressed. What is your passion for leadership in the overall Southern Baptist Convention? How did God just speak to you and allow your name to get tossed in that ring?
Well, the things you've mentioned, Nat, are they are important, and that's why they're taking so much of our attention right now. At the end of the day, I trust that Southern Baptists are going to do what we have done before. It's one of the miracles of our cooperation is that somehow in what may be the world's largest business meeting, we find a way time after time to come together and to figure it out and to set the parameters for our cooperation and then refocus. And I think that's what we have to do. But what really lit the fire for me, because this is not something I've ever aspired to do.
Right. Sure. I know your heart. I mean, you don't want to brag on somebody for being humble. Their head might get big, but you just are a humble, in the trenches pastor, church that gives so much through the cooperative program. But anyway, I interrupt you.
No, it was just a couple of years ago at the SBC that I was walking around with a pastor friend from Georgia around the exhibit hall, and we were laughing about the fact that it's never been better to be a nobody in the SBC than right now.
Yeah.
And so this came as a surprise when I had several people from different states contact me about the possibility of doing that, because I don't have a campaign. I don't have a camp to campaign from. I'm a man without a camp. I don't have an issue that I'm angry about or an axe to grind. What lit the fire for me was knowing that particularly next year in Dallas, in the 2025 SBC annual meeting, we're going to have a chance to celebrate not only the centennial anniversary of the Baptist Faith and Message, but also of the cooperative program. And I would love a chance to help Southern Baptists to look back, celebrate the best of our past, all the things we've been able to do in our cooperative giving together, all the souls that have been saved and churches planted and missionaries sent, so many good things. That 100 years needs to be celebrated in a big way. And then also to recommit the idea of calling our convention to recommit to that proven method that is the envy of other groups, to pool our resources together and join our gifts together to make a bigger difference than we could ever make individually. I'd love to have an opportunity to call our convention to recommit to that, and for all of us in honor of that 100th anniversary to commit to doing better with the cooperative program and add a percentage point or some amount of money just to propel us into the future, to be the best of who we say we are, and then to also take that opportunity to reestablish something that you hear about all the time now within the SBC, and that is a culture of trust and transparency. I keep hearing that over and over. I would love to see that restored, and I would look forward to working with the new president of the executive committee, Jeff Orge. I think that's just a brilliant choice, proven leader, one of those Southern Baptist statesmen that we desperately need right now. And so I would look forward to working with him and the other groups and task forces and commissions and all that are making sure we take care of these other issues. You know, the SBC president doesn't have authority over any church or any of our entities even, but the president gets a seat at the table and has proximity to the bodies that make all of these decisions, and some appointive powers as well. But mainly, I think just an opportunity to try to embody the mission and values and the vision of our network of churches, to be a cheerleader for cooperative program giving. That's the kind of thing that excites me, and so as my wife and I prayed about it, that's where we landed. And I have no idea what's going to happen with 6 candidates, but I'm glad to be on the journey.
Yeah. So, Dan, I would love to know what advice you would give, looking back to your younger self, or especially to new pastors that we have in our convention that are just starting out in ministry, advice that you would have for them.
When I first started out in ministry, I did not know that prayer was going to be the key to everything, my personal prayer life, and then calling a church to be a praying church. I did not know how important that would turn out to be, but I think I would give that advice. Be more concerned about being a man of prayer than a good preacher. Those things aren't mutually exclusive, but I wish that I had taken that more seriously earlier on. And so I would give that advice. And then I think too, if I could just open my heart for a minute,
please, yeah,
is to, I would say, open up your heart to deeper relationships with the people around you, the people you get to pastor, the other pastors in your area. So many times pastors like me can become too guarded. I think maybe being a Gen Xer, I'm 56 years old, I think that's a part of that generation's characteristics, is to be more closed off and guarded. And in addition to that, I was raised up in a culture of pastors and preachers that were awesome, but their motto was never let them see you sweat. And guard your heart. But I think if I could give advice to someone just starting out in ministry, it would be open up your heart to deeper relationships. It's a risk to do that as a person in ministry. I think there are times when I've been more concerned about not casting my pearls before swine than really having those close relationships that tend to anchor you in ministry when the times are tough.
One of the things that I love about talking with pastors is just hearing what's going on in the local church. And I was wondering if maybe you had a story to share of I guess you've been there 11 years?
12 now.
12 now.
Yeah.
So you're 12 years old at Sevierville, First Baptist. You got any God stories for us today?
Two stories come to mind, Matt. One is the story of a young woman who came to our church a few years ago. Lots and lots of problems, crippling issues in her life, including transgenderism. And just to watch some individuals in our church, including my wife, befriend her in all of her issues and confusion, to just befriend her, to speak truth to her, to pray with her, to answer 1,000 questions that she had about church. She was not a believer when she came, of course, and then to see the light begin to come on, and it happened the way with her, like it always happens, that the changes didn't come before she surrendered her life to Christ, but after. And so once she trusted Jesus, turned from her sin, once she was saved, then to watch the way that she began to grow was amazing. I'll never forget her baptism, where she wrote out a testimony for me to read from the baptistry. And just to hear her talk about how the things that mattered so much to her all her life didn't matter anymore. They all paled in comparison to her relationship with Christ. And to see her now devoted to Jesus, sharing the gospel with her co-workers at one of the attractions here in Sevierville, to just be a bright spot on Sunday mornings, someone always with a word of encouragement. And before Christ, there was none of that. It was the complete opposite. But seeing a life change like that up close is one of those things that just keeps you going in ministry. And I think the other, if I have time for another one, sure, is what God's doing in our Hispanic ministry right now. God has given us, for the last 20 years, a fantastic pastor named Miguel Videla. He and his wife Elizabeth have fought the good fight for a long time, and God is really showing them a lot of fruit right now, especially through ESL classes. I was amazed at what God did with $100 worth of Facebook ads when we just put it out there that we were going to do English as a second language class here, and to see 100 people show up the first night. A few Sunday nights ago, we were able to baptize, I think, 9 people out of ESL classes, and it's just the simplest ministry ever. And with our volunteers who are simply leading people to try to help them learn a new language in a new place, and then to see Pastor Miguel and others week after week just share the gospel story and call for a commitment, and that's been really wonderful to see, and how the Lord is bringing in not just individuals but families and extended families, and 12 or 13 different countries represented there. And so that's been one of those fun things in ministry. You just sit back and say, wow, God is just doing an amazing work here. We get to watch it.
I love hearing what you're talking about with the ESL ministry, because that's a ministry that I connect with a lot of churches with my role. But just as we're kind of wrapping things up, Dana, are there any books or resources that you would recommend to pastors that have influenced your ministry a lot?
There are 4 missionary books that have influenced my life. Bill Wallace of China, a great Southern Baptist missionary, and that's by Jesse Fletcher, I think. God's Smuggler by Brother Andrew really impacted my life. Then Through Gates of Splendor, Elizabeth Elliot, right. And a book by Don Richardson called The Peace Child. is one that I have gone back and reread 4 or 5 times because it's meant so much to me. As far as leadership goes, I've always been more of a reluctant leader. I see myself as a reluctant leader instead of a natural leader. I'm an equipped leader, not a natural born one. And Dan Allender wrote a book called Leading with a Limp, based on the story of Jacob in the Bible. And that book really was a turning point for me. More recently, Eric Metaxas's biography of Martin Luther is one of the best things I've read in a long time. And then I can mention one more. Did you ask for one?
No, I said I had an S on the end, so plural. It's fine.
A book on prayer called A Praying Life is A Praying Life is the most practical and personally helpful book on prayer that I've ever read. And so I would recommend that to anybody who wants to really get a hold of what it means to have a good prayer life.
Well, Pastor Dan, we sure appreciate you taking out some time. I know there's a lot on your plate. It's a large church. We just are so thankful for your leadership in the cooperative program, one of our top cooperative program and golden offering for Tennessee Mission churches. And we're definitely going to be praying for you, and I'm going to be voting for you this coming convention. But I know your heart. You know, what we want to do is just stick together. That's what we Baptists do. So,
Amen.
Thank you for inspiring us today.